Hi, Paul Thompson here from Spitfire Audio. Something very exciting for you today. It's the second instalment of Abbey Road Orchestra, our professional range. This is the High Percussion Library, performed by the internationally renowned percussionist Joby Burgess in the legendary acoustic of Abbey Road Studio One and recorded by Simon Rhodes. With 62 hand-selected drums and percussion instruments, approximately 400 discrete articulations including right and left-hand performances, and exceptional detail across the library, up to 11 dynamic layers, 16 round robins, and 16 mic signals, including 2 Simon Rhodes mixes, and the pop close, which makes it incredibly versatile. There are very similar beta selections across the whole library and a very similar layout, so it's easy to copy MIDI from one track to another. This is all Joby's own kit. The whole walkthrough will be chaptered, so if you want to focus on a particular drum, then you can just look in the description below and jump to the relevant section. So we're going to jump straight into the snare section. First up is the first of our 2 piccolo snares, and this one is a hammered steel shell 12-inch snare, which is exceptionally bright. Now, if I hover across the keyboard here, you'll see all of the different articulations you have are all named and laid out across the keyboard. We're using a two-handed layout, so it's duplicated 2 octaves up. And also I've got right-left mapping switched on. That means that the left hand will always be the left key of every pair and the right hand will always be the right key of every pair. And I'm going to show you why that's important later on. But have a quick listen to this. So here you can see the difference between the rim hits and the center hits. Just a deeper tone in the center hits. We've got all of the rolls again laid out next to the relevant section. And if we click on this menu up here, you can see that we've got the same features as we had in low percussion, the soft takeover for the mod wheel, and roll ends and all that kind of stuff. So if you listen to the way that the mod wheel works with this, then you can see that I'm selecting the roll dynamic via velocity first, and then as the mod wheel takes over, I can increase the dynamic of the roll using the mod wheel, and then when I get the roll end, that hits at the appropriate dynamic as well. Having drag hits, which are positioned here on these C sharps and D sharps, gives you the ability to design very precise articulations, including kind of drags and roughs, but it sounds kind of like this. And you can really vary the length of them, which is by far the best way to do it, rather than having kind of prescribed versions that never quite match properly. You've also got actual roughs here. So if you want those as alternates, again, it just gives you a lot more selection. And we can turn the snares off and have a listen to this. So again, massively dynamic. You've got all of those same options as you had with the snares on. We've got the brushes as well. And now if we move to piccolo snare B, this is a 13-inch maple shell snare, so it's slightly warmer. Still got that nice crisp, tight feel that you get from a piccolo snare, but check this one out. And if we switch on right-left mapping, then you can really hear the effect of that, and it enables you to program things like paradiddles. If I just play this slowly, you can hear the effect. And on the drum itself. And if we switch to a different mic, so we get even closer into the drum, let's have a listen to the section overheads and play the same thing. And you can really hear the change there. It definitely adds an element of realism to your programming. Now, if you are the style of programmer where you like to draw the notes in and maybe you're just using one key, then it is better to turn that off. So we turn right left mapping off. And then you just get a kind of alternating right left pattern automatically from the round robins. Let's go back to mix 1 and we'll check out the snares off. And again, you've got those kind of drags and roughs as well in here to enable you to create those kind of patterns too. We've got the brushes as well as before. And if we put our right left mapping on. So next up is the main snare. Now this is a 15-inch Ludwig. This is 100 years old this year. It's a chrome over brass shell and very, very highly articulate. Let's turn on our right left mapping again. So we've got the same articulations. You can see that they're laid out in exactly the same way, incredibly deeply sampled and very, very dynamic as you're playing it. Let's have a listen with the snares off. With the brushes. And again, switching on our right left mapping. And finally, we've got the field drum, which is again a 15-inch, but this is a deeper maple shell. This one was custom made for Joby and has a really fantastic round sound. And with the snares off. So you really get that kind of old style military kind of sound from that. We've got the brushes again. And all of these brush sounds are incredibly useful for kind of putting together little ticky kind of motoring patterns. Just useful little things that you can add in the background to add a bit of drive and a bit of interest to action passages. It's worth having a quick listen to the different mixes as well. So let's go back to snares on and I'll take you through the options. So mix 1 here. And mix 1, we've got 2 trees here. So Simon set up a tree that is a more kind of wide, full sounding room sound, but also we've got a second tree, which is a tighter, more directional sound. That also has its matching outriggers. So you've got a lot of kind of options for curating exactly the sound that you want. But just check out the differences here. And mix 2. So you can hear there's a real kind of directionality to that sound. It's very, very different to the first mix. The other things that are incredibly useful are the section overheads, which give you that really immediate in-your-face sound. And you've got less of the room bleed into that. But we've also got a variety of close mics, 3 different sounds. Let's go back to our piccolo snare. So that's the first close. Here are the second close mics. Very different. And we've also got ribbons, which have that kind of characteristic, slightly smoothed off high end. They're also figure of 8 by design. The ribbon is there and it's kind of being affected from sounds on both sides. So you'll get a slightly roomier sound in the close ribbons as well. We've got the two trees and the two sets of outriggers, as we heard, making up the main sound of those first two mixes. But we've also got these mid mics here, and these are positioned usually about halfway between the conductor position where the tree is and the player. So they take you slightly into the room and bring the instrument slightly more into focus, and that sounds like this. So if you're not looking for that kind of pushed back, standard, very classic orchestral sound, and you want to get a little bit more bite, but you still want to keep the positioning and 3D effect of the whole room space, this is the perfect mic to go for. Next up, we've got the ambience. And in the third pane, we've got two different vintage options. As before, and as also in the Abbey Road One library, the first vintage signal is the original RM1B mics. Now, these are really classic ribbons and give you that kind of classic scoring stage sound. And the second signal is a pair of classic 44BX mics. So both of those are really useful as alternative flavours. Finally, we've got our pop close, which enables you to really zoom in as close as you can get. And that gives you a much more kind of standard, if you're in a smaller room and you are miking the instrument right up close. And the spill mics, which gives you the kind of the rest of the room sound. This is a great additional mic signal for filling in, again, giving you an extra sense of depth of the room. And so that's effectively all the mics that aren't being used on this instrument, but that are open in the rest of the room. So if you use that as part of your signal chain, you'll find that you're getting the really nice kind of crosstalk across all of the instruments together. Okay, moving on to Rototoms. Now, this is a sound that will be very familiar to you from many 80s hits. However, these are slightly more detuned. So we've not gone for the really tight, high pinging sound, which sounds a little bit hackneyed now. But these have been tuned in a way that makes them much more useful for orchestral action music. And let me just play and you'll get the idea. So we've got the range of sizes from 6, 8, 10, 12 and 14 inch toms. So they sound like this. And again, if you look at the keys, at the rollovers, you've got the stick hits and then you've got the rim shots. So the rim shots, that kind of tighter, more muted sound. And the same kind of thing with the right-left mapping. We've got brushes, and these are kind of closely packed nylon brushes, which give you a more kind of focused sound. They really, really match these drums very well. But again, you can use them playing softly, as with some of the other brushes across the library, to have less tone in the drum, more of a percussive sound that you can then use in the background as a kind of ticker. But always useful because as you play harder, you get the accent and you get more of the tone in there. Next, we've got our kind of Catchall Toys section of the library, and this has got some fantastic stuff in from Joby's collection. So first up, castanets. We've got two different types of castanets. One being the handheld and one being the mounted, stand mounted. And you'll see that across both of those, we have these other two articulations, rolls and flams. If we go into a closer mic, you can hear those slightly more clearly. So we'll pop up the section overheads again. So let's go back to mix one. We've got claves, two wooden sticks hit together, and there's a couple of different options here. Again, we can use this really useful rollover, and you can see we've got low and high and 3 pairs. So they sound like this. And again, if you want to do those kind of faster rhythms, really useful to have the two-handed mapping. And these are quite useful for action sequences when you have a kind of holding pattern and you just want to have... It's quite useful to kind of keep things going, keep a kind of state of suspense without really saying much. Kashishis. We've got a variety of articulations here, so throws and drops. Let's have a listen. Now, with these ones, the velocity, and with some of the shakers as well, the velocity affects how fast the swirls and things go. So if you listen, I'll play very gently, and then harder. Some really useful stuff there. Guiros. Now here we have we've got a voice choking on. That's incredibly useful, so that you can do these kind of patterns where you can get exactly the right length on this scrape. So if you look at the plastic guiro down here, we've got a long scrape here on G, and then our kind of short scrapes and hits here. So we could do something like this. Or you can just have the whole scrape as it goes. There's a couple of different options. We've got the plastic, we've got wood, and again you can use that voice choking to again tailor the exact length of the long scrape there. So next up, maracas. We've got high and low. And we've got our swirls and shakes again, and here with velocity you can alter the speed of the swirl or shake. So check this out. So it gets faster the harder you hit the keys. So with the ratchet we have individual clicks. We've got a continuous, like a drum roll on the same key as you would get the drum rolls. And then we've got a single rotation. So shakers, we've got two pairs, and they're laid out low on the natural keys and high on the sharp keys. And again, this is one of those areas where as you kind of go closer into the instrument, you really bring out the character. So depending on the kind of use case, you can alter the mic mix to match what you're trying to get. Vibra slap. And then we have the choked hit as well. So very useful stuff there. Finally, up in the toy box, we've got the whips. And you've got those two types, heavy whip and light whip. So next up is the bongos. We've got, again, we've got two different types of beater. We've got the hands and we've got sticks. Now in the hands, you've got all of these different types of articulation that you would use when performing. So if we look across, I'll show you what we've got here. We've got hand hits. And again, these are left-right performances. We've got finger hits. And then we've got the high hand hits and the finger hits. Now on the high bongo, you've got additionally hand hits closed and finger hits closed. So as you can hear, you've got that slightly tighter, more muted sound. So if we move to the sticks and look at the rollovers here, we've got stick hits, again, left and right. I'll switch my mapping on there. And then rim shots, left and right as well. So that gives us this kind of sound. Now with the same mapping, we've got these fantastic mini bongos, which are kind of almost look more like a kind of toy, but they are really, really useful. And again, you can use the kind of two-handed layout, find the tones and the hits and the whichever notes you want to use, and then put together a pattern. It's a lot easier to play with those things mapped over two hands. With the congas, we've got our traditional sounds. So let's go through these in detail. So we've got the low tones, low bass, mid tones, mid bass, main tone, main bass, main palm, closed slap, and you can really hear the difference between the hands there. And then you've got these extra articulations here which give you the tip and the right hand. Having all of these different tones might seem like overkill, but it really gives you the opportunity to be able to program a genuine, real conga rhythm, which is quite unusual, especially having both hands mapped independently. You can really program something that's very, very detailed and realistic. Next up is an African drum. This is the djembe, fantastic hand drum. So again, you can get a really good articulation in that. If we listen to the brush sound, and I'll just hover over there to show you, you've got the tone hits with the brushes, the bass hits with the brushes, and then closed tone. And you can really hear the bass triggering the room there. If we go into the overheads, you can hear the kind of source of the sound, but it's not until it's actually travelled out into the room. Let's check out the mids next. And you're starting to hear the development of the low frequencies, but then really once you get to the main mix and you've got the tree and the outriggers in there, you really get that fantastic kind of pump down the bottom end. Now a smaller Arabian drum, the darbuka, kind of similar in its visual design, but a really different kind of ringing sound. And again, very, very dynamic. You've got the brushes on this one as well. And this is actually incredibly useful. If you use the close mics, you've got that kind of, it still sounds like an orchestral close. If you mix that with your outriggers and stuff like that, as opposed to, for example, the pop close, which really focuses mainly on the kind of higher tone frequency. Next up, Octobans. Very, very familiar sound to anyone who loves orchestral action music. And again, these give you that great kind of range of pitches. We've got them played with the sticks here. But traditionally, you would also have the rods. So you've got those kind of tight wooden pack of rods that gives you this kind of more scattered sound. And really helps to push the tone out there. And again, we can go for a different mix based on maybe our section overheads with the mids, put a bit of those in, and maybe the more directional of the outriggers. And if I bring those mids up a bit and the outriggers down a bit, and then turn it the other way around, you can hear how we're kind of changing the aperture or the focus of where the sound is. And that's across these mic positions. They're all very, very useful for that. You can really tailor exactly the sound that you want by using the mics in different proportions. Next up we have a Japanese drum, the Shimmy Daiko, traditionally played with taiko sticks. And we've got a variety of other beaters here, which gives you a slightly more varied and kind of wider, more exciting sound. Great sound with the hands. Almost sounds like a different drum, but this matches in really well with the low percussion, with the taikos, which give you the kind of, obviously the kind of big, beefier sound, but you still get a great tone from this drum. So next up is the South American timbales, a single skin drum with a metal shell, and very, very characteristic sound. We've again gone to town on the different types of hit you've got here. So let me just show you some of them. So you've got the variety of different shell hits as well. This extra one here, which is the rim click and the kind of closed shell hits at the side, give you the two different tones for each drum. And so you can build up a pattern using those alongside the hits. So with all of that kind of variety, you can get a really interesting rhythm going. Next up, for any fans of Planet of the Apes, we've got a set of 6 pitched log drums, one of Joby's favourites. These are hardwood instruments with a tongue which gives the pitch of the drum. Again, enormous dynamic range, really super evocative. Fantastic set of drums there. Sticking with the wood theme, we've got a collection of temple blocks with 4 different pitches. 2 different mallet types. We've got the soft mallets here as well. Really useful with the soft mallets for that kind of ostinato thing. And similarly with the wood blocks, again, 4 pitches with a tighter, crisper sound. And you can really tell if you listen to the right-left mapping on this one. And with the soft mallets. Last but not least is the plastic section. So here we have a tub, a jerry can and a bucket. These are laid out again with the right left hand mapping, but with the kind of the body hit on the white keys. So if I just hover over there, you can see sides on the white keys and then the top on the sharp keys. So you've got that across the 3 instruments. And they're mapped in such a way that you can easily play them, you know, kind of together like that. And they're laid out in the hall in a slightly more street ensemble style, slightly spread across. So you can have them all going at the same time and they give a really nice kind of stereo field. And if we change the mics and we put up the section overheads, the close one and the mids, we're going to end up with, again, you've still got that kind of spread, but it's a tighter, more focused sound. So lots of variety in the recording options there. Hope you've enjoyed that brief overview of High Percussion, the most detailed percussion library we've ever made. It really is very, very playable, incredibly dynamic. There's so much variety of sounds, beaters. It's laid out in a really logical way so that you can easily copy parts from one section to another. Beautifully performed by Joby. and beautifully recorded by Simon. It's an absolute treat. Hope you're going to enjoy playing with this one, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.